Nancy Pelosi is getting humiliated right to her face from a musician who is critiquing the democracy, or as the left would like to put it, the threat to democracy and the propaganda that has been put out throughout the media, and also addressing how the elitists come together to silence the truth. Let's go ahead and hear them out. Y'all been telling me all week to check this out on X, so let's go ahead and dive into it.
The real threat to democracy is from the elites. Now, don't get me wrong. We need elites. If President Biden has shown us anything, we need someone to run the countries. When the president has severe dementia, it's not just America that crumbles, the whole world burns. But let's examine the elites. European corporations spend over 1 billion euros a year lobbying Brussels. US corporations spend over $2 billion a year lobbying in DC. 2/3 of Congress receive funding from pharmaceutical companies. Pfizer alone spent $11 million in 2021. They made over $10 billion in profit. No wonder then that 66% of Americans think the economy is rigged against them for the rich and the powerful. And by the way, we used to have a word for when big business and big government were in cahoots. And I think any students here of early 20th century Italian history know what I'm talking about.
What's that?
What about big tech? Throughout the pandemic, Biden's team, the FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security colluded with big tech in censoring dissenting voices, not kooky conspiracy theorists. People like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, the Stanford epidemiologist. People like Harvard scientist Martin Kulldorff. People spreading true information, not misinformation, true information at odds with the government narrative.
And we got to thank the likes of Elon Musk, because once he purchased Twitter, it exposed, and he went on the whole Twitter files era, it exposed so much behind the scenes that was happening with big tech and the government to censor the likes of Trump, Alex Jones, so many more people who were not with the government protocol. But even outside of that, he's talking about misinformation and how everything is labeled as misinformation during the, I don't even want to say it, 2020 era and all that. And you had all of these scientists whom came out with real information, whom were deemed, a threat to society, so to speak, and were censored and took down. And people like myself was looking at it like, I was at the time maybe feeding into it, but it's all brainwashing, and they've been getting away with it forever.
Need I remind you, democracy without free speech is not democracy.
That's right.
This was a direct breach, by the way, of the First Amendment. Before COVID, intelligence services colluded with big tech to have Trump suspended off Twitter. Yes, the same platform which hosted the Taliban and Ayatollah deaf to Israel Khomeini, they thought the president crossed the line when he tweeted on Jan 6th, quote, "Remain peaceful, no violence, respect the law and our great men and women in blue." That's a quote. You may be thinking now that Trump is a populist. You are right. He didn't accept the 2020 elections, and he should have. So should Hillary in 2016, so should Brussels, and so should Westminster in 2016, and so too should Congresswoman Pelosi, instead of saying the 2016 election was, quote, hijacked.
Yes, you see the clear hypocrisy with the left, right? Because in 2016, all of them, the people that he named and so many more, were saying that the election was hijacked, as he just quoted Pelosi. And they were saying that he's not a real president, that his seat was bought, so to speak, and how they wanted to really dive into it and look into it. But go up to 2020, when Trump does the same thing, he's now the great threat to society, right?
Quote, hijacked.
It was. She literally just proved this point.
That we don't accept the results of it.
Okay. What about the mainstream media? Let me read you some mainstream media headlines.
She thought she was cooking.
The New Yorker, the day before the 2016 election. The case against democracy. The Washington Post, the day after the election. The problem with our government is democracy. The LA Times, June 2017. The British election is a reminder of the perils of too much democracy. Vox, June 2017. The two eminent political scientists say the problem with democracy is voters. New York Times, June 2017. The problem with participatory democracy is the participants. Mainstream media elites are part of a class who don't just disdain populism, they disdain the people.
Wow.
If the Democrats had put half their energy into delivering for the people, Trump wouldn't even have a chance in 2024. He shouldn't have a chance. You've had power for 4 years. From the fabricated Steele dossier to trying to take him off the ballot in both Maine and Colorado, the Democrats are the anti-Democrat party. All we need now is the Republicans to come out as the pro-monarchist party.
He's basically saying you're against yourselves in the way that you're going after Trump. But because you're on the left side of things, everything is okay. It's cool when we do it if I was on the left, but it's horrible if they do it if you're on the right. Basically. Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, populism is not a threat to democracy, but I'll tell you what is. It's elites ordering social media to censor political opponents. It's police shutting down dissenters, be it anti-monarchists in this country or gender-critical voices here, or last week in Brussels, the National Conservative movement. I'll tell you what is a threat to democracy. It's Brussels, DC, Westminster, the mainstream media, big tech, big pharma, corporate collusion, and the Davos cronies. The threat to democracy comes from those who write off ordinary people as deplorable.
Hillary.
The threat to democracy comes from those who smear working people as racists. The threat to democracy comes from those who write off working people as populists. And I'll say one last thing. This populist age can be brought to an end at the snap of a finger. All that needs to be done is for elites to start listening to, respecting, and, God forbid, working for ordinary people. Thank you.
First of all, let me say what an absolute brilliant speech. For real. Like, he laid that out perfect. Right to her face. I honestly wish we had a camera sitting right there on her face, locked in the whole time. We need the whole B-roll of that. I'm sure she was over there like, you know, this definitely furthers the idea that the world is laughing at us right now, man. You see what's happening. We've been seeing what's happening. They can do it, but, you know, when other people do it, it's not fair game. Pointing out the obvious hypocritical aspects of the mainstream media and how they painted Trump as this threat to democracy, using this propaganda to sort of brainwash the entire world. I was once, you know, definitely on that side of needing to get a good cleansing. But they do it to influence the elections. They do it to influence the minds. They do it to influence the hearts of the people. And I don't think that that's, you know, okay, especially if you're going to then censor and shut down the people whom are trying to spread, true information, not misinformation. Obviously, the line is going to be tiptoe for sure when you're dealing with social media and everybody having their own opinion. But that's the whole point of having free speech out here. We supposed to, you know, but for the left, it's okay for them to do that, but they're colluding with pharmaceutical companies and things like that, getting funding and getting funded from pharmaceutical companies, then going to big tech and colluding with them and to censor information that could be valid, that goes completely against their narrative, you know. And I would say he presented this with absolute class. This was a master class. And then the one thing that Nancy Pelosi did that made me laugh, and she goes, when he was talking about the election, she was saying, and he was saying that how they were saying that it was stolen and all that in 2016. Her rebuttal was along the lines of, well, we still accepted the results. You know, we didn't agree, but we accepted the result. How did you accept the results if you didn't agree? That's fundamentally, you know, wrong in itself. You didn't accept it if you disagree, you know, and then you going on, how do I say this? A campaign about how you don't disagree. It's one thing to disagree and accept it and go, all right, you know, I may not agree with it, but sure, you know, it is what it is. But it's another to go, I don't agree with it. And, you know, nah, it ain't is what it is. It was this, it was that, it was this, it was that, it was this, it was that, and kind of campaign on it. And then trying to tuck back and say, oh, well, you know, I accepted it. Nah, you didn't. Your feelings was hurt. So many quotables that I heard from this, though. Democracy is, democracy without free speech is not democracy, is what he said. Man, hit the nail right on the coffin with that one for sure. Honestly, if people don't have the ability to speak their minds and give their honest opinions from a genuine standpoint, I don't stand behind people who are out here to just purposely spread information to excite any sort of, verbal or physical violence. We're not into that whatsoever. But for sure, man, I think that us being able to have a voice, everybody being able to have a voice, everybody being able to respect the First Amendment is necessary. That doesn't mean that you aren't responsible for what you say. You know, nobody's saying that. But he also talked about how when I can't remember exactly what event was going on, but he said that Trump tweeted out, something about being able to go peacefully, no violence and things of that nature. It's honestly, those are the type of things that you don't get to see the mainstream media post or say about Trump. Granted, I mean, he definitely is a mean tweeter. He's definitely somebody who has a lot of tweets that you can skip over if you, get caught in the crossfire a few. But anyhow, they never post their side of anything. And we're tired of it. It was exposed with Elon Musk, with the Twitter files, and he's somebody who literally bought the platform, who literally has access to the information and showed it, but they still tried to deny that, paint him as somebody who's a racist and all these other things. Like, we're tired of the smear campaigns. We're just tired of it. And then he went on to talk about how putting the power back in the hands of the people is key. That's the most important thing here. The elites never worked for ordinary people. They made us work for them. That's the whole point. And that's the problem, because it's not supposed to be like that. I think this was a great video, man. Thank y'all for sending this my way.